All right. I think we're firing.
Perfect.
All right. Welcome to another edition of the Other League Pod. Coming to you a little late in the week here. Unfortunately, had to kind of delay it another night here, but we're firing away on a late Friday night. We're going to be bringing in, I think a very warm welcome. The people were asking for him back, and they're going to get their wish. Big Anth, going on, bud.
Hey, what's going on, man? Happy to be here again. Got to give the people what they want, and apparently they want a little more Finkel as Einhorn. So happy to be here. Happy to fill in for Snide again. Miss you, buddy, and looking forward to seeing you back on the pod as always. But yeah, this is great. Happy to be here again and ready to rock and roll. Let's get through it.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's good to have you back. Good to get at least something out of there again. So we are our streak is alive on Eps and pods. So and a lot of points this week to go over, which will be cool. I think everyone but one team got over the 100 mark. So a lot of points being scored this week in fantasy. So yeah, it'll be fun to break it down.
For sure.
Let me see if I can get this correct. All right, here we go. All right, man. Well, let's kick it off. I'll skip my matchup for now. Let's go to the highest point total of the week. Just edged you out,
Oh yeah.
unfortunately, by a couple points there late on Monday night with Gibbs. But yeah, Riggs. I kind of build this last week up to being a really important week for Riggs. If he got the win, which he did, and unfortunately a tough one for the bastard Logue. He's kind of unfortunately fallen a little bit here in the last 2 weeks with two consecutive losses. So, um, but yeah, I'll kick it over with Riggs real quick just to highlight a couple of his players. A lot of consistency. Outside of the quarterback position, which he's kind of been juggling, especially now that Fields is hurt. The rest of the guys kind of performed for him. I mean, he gets Devontae Smith on kind of a bounce back week here this week. Kind of get right a little bit that you're going to get these pop games from that offense, unfortunately, as we kind of noted throughout the EPs previously. So he gets 23, gets in the end zone. So really nice week for Devontae Smith for Steve. Addison's really filled into that role really nicely with Jefferson out. Unfortunately, we're going to see what that does now with Kirk Cousins out, and who knows who's going to be their quarterback. They did make that trade, but Addison looks the part. Finally, Ant. I'll let you kind of sidebar this because you asked for it and they kind of delivered. He gets his Austin Eckler game back. 8 targets, 7 catches for 100 yards and a score. Um, yeah, I mean, you called it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they definitely needed to do that, and I'm glad that they finally got their head out of their ass a little bit and said, you know what, we got to feed Elson Eckler. And against Chicago, Chicago's not known for being a great defense. So it's like, you know what, feed him the rock, get him involved, and they did. Glad to see that. I'm sure, like Steve said it too, like he's glad to see it as well. And that was a big performance from him. And on top of that, I'm sure you're gonna, give us some insight on the Jamar Gibbs game that he had. That was a great game. And what did you see out of Jamar Gibbs on Monday night?
Yeah, I mean, kind of threw in like a little bit of a jab at Snyder in the group text, just saying, "Are we seeing an RB takeover with Jameer Gibbs?" Just off obviously his tangent on in the very first edition, we'll say, of the Runaway Train, which was a great little tirade he gave us for how much he loves Montgomery and his vision of how he drafted him, which was great.
Yeah,
But yeah, Jamar Gibbs comes out and just looks electric in that Monday night game. Kind of what people have been talking about. So we'll see. Coming off the bye, I would assume Montgomery's healthy. It's going to be an interesting dynamic with those two guys. Can they sustain both being good? I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, he looked really good on Monday night for sure. And interesting, he gets 30, basically 37 points, or yeah, I guess 35 points if you want to call it from that trade. He gets Dalton Kincaid on Thursday night, slightly delayed processing, but He had 17 from Dalton, just joking. Dalton Kincaid, which was a good trade for Steve. He needed a tight end position for sure to fill. And Javonte Williams with a really nice game. I mean, it looks like it's still his backfield. He looks pretty good overall. I mean, in terms of just being a guy that can might be the guy that's there. I mean, if he gets in the end zone, he gets you 18. So yeah, not bad. I mean, there was definitely a lot of hype behind Javonte Williams for a while, especially before that injury in his rookie, I think his rookie campaign, um, where he just looked like he was going to be a really good back, and he really hasn't picked up steam to that degree. But nice guy, nice little piece to add on for Steve in that trade for sure. And he gets 159, which is crazy. That's a lot of points for sure. And tough. No one's going to beat that. So I'll let you kick over to Logue's team, who had a pretty nice output based on projections. I mean, outscores it by 7 with 112.
Yeah, true. It's really you get 112, you feel pretty good about yourself, you would think, but like you said, 159, that's just a crazy number to put up, and it's just tough to come back from that. You look at his team and you don't really see many. I mean, yes, Christian Kirk with 8. Um, you think a little bit more from him in that situation. I mean, look how consistent he's been. That's he's still, this isn't a bad game by any stretch, but yeah, he's been very consistent. But yeah, just couldn't unfortunately get the double digit points there. And but yeah, can't really complain too much. I mean, Evan Ingram has a great game at 16. Um, yeah, he just hasn't really been. It's tough. Evan Ingram's always been a guy that never finds the end zone. I mean, that's going back to his New York Giants days. He never found the end zone and still stuck on 0 touchdowns. So that was a killer because I don't think. I mean, besides, I mean, you see like George Pickens obviously had a reception touchdown, but I don't really see many other guys that actually had a touchdown. So that's the thing. Steve scores 159. All his guys hit. I think if you look at it, I think every single guy scored a touchdown. Yeah, they did. You look on the right hand side, every single guy on Steve's team
Yeah.
scored a touchdown. That's big. So despite the fact that Herbert got 30, yeah, he had a great game. 3 touchdowns, 298 passing yards. So he was good. But yeah, it's just tough to come back from a big performance by each player on Steve's team, even his defense. I mean, he had a good performance from his defense. So yeah, big bounce back, and for Steve, I predicted he was going to win this matchup, and I was right. So I was happy to see that Steve got back on the winning track and put up a pretty good performance on this point total.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the only thing to note, and I think Snyder had mentioned that on a previous pod or two, he double dipping the Jacksonville players. I mean, good guys to have for sure, but maybe not necessarily every single week they can sustain, Kirk, Ridley, and Evan Ingram having consistent, good weeks. So I mean, a little down there, but yeah, I mean, Steve gets every guy over his projections besides his quarterback. So it's a good win for Steve for sure. Gets him into that 500 mark. Um, Tough loss for Logue. But he's got to bounce back, and he's got to bounce back quick because he's still in the hunt. So yeah, let's go back. Let's go back. Let's take it to I'll skip you. We'll save us for the end. We might as well.
Yep.
Why don't you kick it off with Arby's here for us? I mean, he has the big output, 144, crushes his projections, and crushes the heart of Snyder. We'll say that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Arby's has really been consistent with his point totals. I feel like he's been putting up a lot. I mean, second most points in the league, so he's been on fire, and 5-3 record with a big win, big statement victory over Train. I mean, Josh Allen starts us off with 33 points. I mean, that was a Thursday night game, so obviously Josh Allen with a big start for Arby's, and then of course White with his 17.9 points, and then the main story here, the main takeaway has been AJ Brown. AJ Brown has been a monster,
Beast.
and we knew that he was great. I don't think we knew that he was this great. Maybe he did as an Eagles fan. I mean, obviously last year was a great season for him in his debut season as an Eagle. This year, much better. I mean, he's going off. He's getting targets and he's producing, and he looks to be the real deal. So the Eagles are a formidable team, but they're going to have a tough stretch coming up with some really tough games. So it's actually a nice little test for them as you scroll it up here. I mean, obviously Dallas, a big rivalry game. They have the bye. Look at that. Kansas City, Buffalo, and the Niners. Then back to Dallas again. Even Seattle you can throw in there too. They're a playoff team at the moment. So a murderer's row of tough teams. But that's a great performance by Josh and by AJ Brown. And of course, like Sam Laporta, he's been continuing his hot streak with 19. Henry obviously does Derrick Henry like things again. King Henry was 16, so it's a very consistent number for all these guys, and he just really had a good week. But yeah, as you scroll here and find Sam Laporta, 19 points.
So
He's just
good.
been very great. Yeah, great tight end. I mean, you're always skeptical a little bit of like how a rookie tight end will be. Kyle Pitts shows that. I mean, he has the talent for sure, but if a guy can't use you right, if the offensive coordinator or the head coach is not using you right, you might struggle if you have a bad quarterback. They don't have that. They have a good quarterback in Jared Goff. They're finding ways to get him involved. So I mean, just a great pick and a potential keeper option for for Mr. Arby's. So and even on his bench, I mean, look at his bench. I mean, he had guys sit Shaheed with
Hmm.
24. You can't really predict that consistency from Shaheed, but Jahan Dotson. Finally, we expected big things from Jahan Dotson. I
Hmm.
know I did. That was a target of mine in the draft. I'm sure a lot of people would say the same thing, maybe. But he was great. So great performance from Arby's, and unfortunately for Snide, it might be tough to win against a team that scores 144. And I'll let you roll with Train. See how he did this week.
Yeah, I mean, Train picked himself. You and I think we're on with the Arby's train, I should say, just in the pick'ems here. So pretty much gets his projections some way or the other. I mean, definitely some highs and lows for sure. I mean, Trevor Lawrence was 17. He had a tough game at Pittsburgh. Still throws a touchdown, but has the pick. Nothing special there from your quarterback spot. Zay Flowers, I think, was a little bit disappointing for sure.
Mhm.
Kind of up and down. Um, in terms of just what you maybe can get out of the guy. I mean, he's been really relatively consistent, I'll say, at least in terms of double digits. I guess this was the second game that was below double digit points, but only 5 catches for 19 yards. Really wasn't utilized all that much. Granted, they did have a lot of touchdowns on the ground. We'll get to your team.
Yeah.
Just with Gus Edwards on the bench, but yeah, I mean it's didn't need to throw as much probably, and we'll note the Lamar and Mark Andrews point total as well coming up here in Ryan's matchup, but yeah, a little disappointing at least in terms of the receiving guys there. So Zay Flowers a little down game, but Garrett Wilson has been playing pretty nice for him. Regardless of that Wilson swap, they're finally starting to kind of look towards him, I would say. I mean, he's been relatively consistent again, maybe not necessarily the big pop that you would hope for with a second year guy. And then, obviously pairing it with Aaron Rodgers coming in. So, but hey, 12 catches last week, or the week before the bye, I should say, 17, and then follows up with 17 again here with 13 targets, 7 catches for 100. So, I mean, that's great to see, probably for Snyder as a fan and as an owner, we'll say, of Garrett Wilson. Kamara again is just killing it. I mean, the guy has been
Yes.
incredible since he's come back. Just getting so much volume. Gets in the end zone twice this week. He's been a really huge piece for Snyder. A guy that he again did some really good work in terms of just like kind of sitting and waiting and just hoping, I guess, or knowing, we'll say, that Montgomery was going to be a steady piece and that he could draft the way that he needed to draft. And Kamara's been really good for him. So and kind of just going through, I mean, his tight end spot's been weak. We've noted that. And then, he still gets a nice game from Henderson, another double digit performance. Really nothing special. No guys that are going to give him some big point totals outside of Kamara, unfortunately. So when you face a team with that much firepower like Arby's, you need a couple of those guys besides Kamara that Arby's has, and they've seemed to be delivering on a week in and week out basis. So yeah, I mean, you have a couple of those guys, it's scary, and then his complementary pieces have been pretty good. So Arby's is trending up. It might be 9.99 night. Other franchises around the country, but I mean, his team's putting up some points, so maybe something's in the water.
It
We'll
is.
see.
Maybe.
Let's go to the next one. Um, the one verse two, or the previous one verse two, we'll say, of
Oh yeah.
last week. So I'll kick it off here. I'll go with Andre. He basically hits on his projections, gets the win. I think all of us had Dre, I think, in the pick'ems.
Yeah.
Again, just a lot of firepower to deal with, I think. Going just kind of down the list here. Slow start from Hurts. Didn't look great early
Yeah.
in that game, but he really, turns it on, gets 4 touchdowns, over 300 passing yards. Great performance. A guy that drafting him that early, you want that return. Like you'll adversely get to what Patrick Mahomes did, unfortunately for Rick, on the counter there. But Godwin's been really good. I thought that was a nice, again, little piece there for Dre and that add-on deal with Rick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Godwin's been double digits every week. I mean, guy's been really, really consistent. Gets his best week. Gets the best week from him last week with 17. So, or I'm sorry, second best week, but still,
Yeah. Mhm.
Tyreek continues to do what he does. That offense again was just looked good. I mean, both receivers had really good games. A little subdue in the rushing attack, but yeah, I mean, Tyreek continues to be the best receiver in football. Jonathan Taylor, solid game. I mean, gets 95 rushing yards. Nothing special, but I think it's his backfield. I mean, Zach Moss is still running good too, which is kind of funny.
Oh, yeah.
Swift has been a really good piece, and fortunately Waller goes out early. I mean, that's really the only blemish on his side of things besides Philly's D, um, and having to play Rice with Johnson on a bye. I think right. So
Actually, no.
didn't know Johnson. Oh, wow, he could have played Johnson. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's about the only thing I guess. Looking down at it, I mean, oof, I guess you can touch on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, Andy does what he does, gets at the 118 mark and gets his projections, and yeah, unfortunately, I think it was a little bit at the quarterback spot. Unfortunately, that kind of made the difference here. I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, that's what it seems to me. It seems like for sure. I mean, this is definitely was the matchup of the week going into it, just because they were 1-2. But yeah, unfortunately, it's just rough when your quarterback gets you 5. It's just not going to be easy to come back from. I know that game. I know that game was a 4 o'clock start for sure. But yeah, Patrick Mahomes getting 5 was the nail in the coffin for Ship Blizzard. I feel like it just you have Hurts. You expected a 30-point performance. You just did. I mean, I know going into it, I mean, some kind of illness or injury. I mean, but at the same time, it's like you still expect them to like do much better against a Denver Bronco team that's not really good defensively. So, but on the road, they lose 24-9, and that's just like it was tough to win with a point total like that. I mean, you look at the players on his team. Obviously, Stephon Diggs gets him 16, solid but unspectacular number. Expected much more from him in the game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but he only gets 16. Puka Nakua, falls back down to earth a little bit. Actually a lot, I should say. Only 7. I just feel like they're gonna have some games like that. I feel like, I mean, just being a relatively unknown coming into the season. I mean, obviously, they had a rough game all around. So I mean, we'll see if he bounces back next week. I know he's coming in a questionable tag there. But as far as the other guys, Mixon with 20, great game from him. He was really, really, really good. The Bengals as a whole were good. Obviously, Johnson with 6. It's just they were on the back end of a beat down. So they had Foreman. And then I know I think I don't know if it was he had a fumble or somebody else had a fumble. I'm pretty sure it was him that had the fumble, I believe, in the game.
Rashawn or Foreman?
I think it might have been him. I don't know. I'm not really sure, but
Yeah.
anyways, I mean, he has Kittle with 23. I mean, you look at some pretty good performances from his players, right? Especially his stars. I mean, star-like performance from Kittle. But as we scroll down to the bench here. I mean, a couple guys, woulda, coulda, shoulda. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins with 34. Now, I didn't expect a performance like that. I mean, the guy Will Levis is a rookie, and I feel like no one expected him to like go off like that, and they did. So I see why he wouldn't play him. I mean, Josh Downs has been pretty consistent.
Still 14 out of them, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like it is what it is. I mean, yeah, I don't think Downs is capable of having a 3 touchdown game, but I didn't think Hopkins was either. I mean, no offense to DeAndre Hopkins, but
Great.
it's like you have to you start who you start, and unfortunately, yeah, it comes down to Mahomes. Mahomes has 5 points. There's really no way you're gonna like if you won that game, that would be a huge monumental win and be a huge win. It'd be like okay, the best quarterback arguably in football gets me 5 and I still won. That would be a bragging rights for
Mhm.
sure. But unfortunately, he can't find a way to get the victory. And Andre with a big win, and he sits pretty at 6-2. He's top of the table right now. A lot of football left, but he's got a lot to feel good about with his team producing at the rate that they are. But yeah, he just got a little. He needs a little more consistency. Obviously, the tight end spot it's going to be tough now with Waller missing multiple weeks. So that's right now his weak spot. But it's tough to complain about being 6-2 and having his team that he has right
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, he wins. I think he's his third win in a row. So Andy's kind of again picking up steam a little bit. He got Taylor back. Makes that trade with Rick. Um, Seems to be kind of clicking right now for sure. That Waller injury is kind of his leaky bucket, like you mentioned. So we'll see what happens moving forward. Um, I think Rick's still in a good spot overall. I mean, he did unfortunately lose 2 in a row, so back into that little cog of the 5 and 3s. But I think his team's still in good shape, and um, he just needs that one running back to come back, and I think his team's still going to be looking pretty solid.
now.
All right, let's Bandits and Tiburon. We'll go to that.
Yep.
Um, I'll start it off. I guess
Yep.
I'll go with Ryan here. Actually, I'm going to start with Ryan in this one. Unfortunately, falls pretty short of projections. This one was kind of billed to be a pretty close, tight fought matchup, I should say, at least on paper. Projections had them really close. I think this might have been what I said was the game of the week before I realized it was 1 versus 2. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, unfortunately, that we'll start with Ryan here. Just they didn't need to throw the ball. They ran all over, literally all over Arizona with Gus Edwards and that running attack. So um, kind of made it a close game at the end, but I mean Lamar just didn't need to pass. So unfortunately gets 13 there. Kind of same thing. They do hook up for a touchdown again, so he does get a little bit of production from Mark Andrews, at least in that stack. But 27 by no means is what he anticipated with those guys in Arizona, unfortunately. But everyone else did pretty decent. I mean, Pittman again gets in the end zone. I think he's been really, really solid overall for Ryan. Just really consistent. I mean, just that one dud game. Everything else has been really well, like 13 plus every week, or I'm sorry, 10 plus every week. That's really good. Um, Ayuk's been solid. Bijan gets in the end zone finally. I still feel like he's capped, but changing at the guard and the quarterback spot there. So we'll see if that offense does anything different with that
True.
change. This has been unfortunate. His downfall, I think, for most of the year was just that RB2 spot. Running the didn't really think Damian Pierce would have been a bad play coming into the season. I have shares of him in other leagues. He's just been disappointing overall in an offense that I feel like has been relatively improved. I know the line has been tough, dealing with injuries, for the better part of the beginning of the year, but he's just not producing. Now he's hurt. We'll get into that for week 8, but yeah, just unfortunate. And now he's got to unfortunately rely on a couple other secondary pieces. We'll get into that as well, but kind of a letdown there for sure. St. Brown does play on Monday night, so it does get 16 from him to kind of make his score respectful. Would have been tough seeing your guy that he was probably in scramble mode if St. Brown sits. So yeah, just a tough week. I mean, 100 points. We've talked about this so many times, and it's kind of been proven that 120 mark, which Aaron gets to, is almost a guaranteed win. And we'll get to that as well. But I'll let you take over the Bandits here.
Yeah, definitely good performance from Aaron. Gives us a big victory over Ryan. Tua with 27 starts us off as we start from the quarterback spot. I mean, he's been great. That whole offense has been great. We've talked about that many times, but he finds a way to like get the victory. over New England. And you look down the other big performances from Aaron. I mean, Jamar Chase had a great game, 25 points, and showing why he was a top three pick, yeah, obviously in this league, obviously, and he's just proven time and time again that he can be just a focal point of their offense and against a tough Niners defense, which has proven to be a little bit weaker the last couple of weeks. I mean, Minnesota played great against
Mhm.
them, and then of course now the Bengals on the road too. What a great performance from the Bengals, honestly. So boom boom right there for Jamar Chase, like he was on fire. And a great performance from T.J. Hawkinson as well with 20 points.
Mhm.
Found a way. I figured against Green Bay he was going to have a great game, and he did. And he's a monster tight end for sure. And it's nice to have that tight end spot just secure every week. Besides the bye, barring injury, it's just set it and forget it. He's has no worries there. So Aaron's in a great spot for sure. Um, Calvin Ridley with 14.
Nice bounce back game for Ridley.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously talked about it last week how much I like Ridley as a player. I mean, he's a stud. These are you expect 15 to 20 points from him if hopefully Jacksonville looks like Jacksonville's been on a little bit of a roll here. They're on fire. They're on a big win streak, and I think that offense is humming. I mean, they're on bye at the worst time because they're on a roll right now. So, and then he gets a good performance from his defense as well. Only minor criticism, not of him or his team, but just like Tony Pollard really, with only 6.
Mhm.
I think last year nobody really knew how good he was. I mean, he played great last year. He was a monster, but 6 points. I mean, he's been a little bit lower than we thought. I mean, I thought for sure he could do a little bit of both. I think his touchdowns are limited right now. He only has two on the year,
Mhm.
no receiving touchdowns, but maybe as they're asking Dak to throw a little bit more, it kind of limits his big playability, I assume. But expecting a little bit more out of him, but obviously his keeper and a guy that he wants to rely on, I think. But he gets Mostert in the trade. Mostert gets him 10. So I think that's he scores a touchdown, so it salvages his fantasy day. But overall, very solid performance. Olave with 9. So I mean, touched on all his players. But yeah, it finds a way to do it. Obviously, Lamar didn't have the game for Ryan to get the victory, and of course, Pierce has been a disappointment. So but hey, still both guys are 5-3, so very, very, very good season out of both of them so far, and they're going to be in the thick of things, I'm sure. So definitely a good win for Aaron, and Ryan's, ready to bounce back next week.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think my only takeaway is that you talk about Hawkinson. I mean, I think he's now tight end 2, I believe,
Wow.
overall for the year. So the fact that he can offload Kincaid at a time where he's has the most value.
Hmm.
He gets back Mostert, who I think certainly is much more trustworthy than Javante or Sanders or any of the guys he would have played. So
Hmm.
really nice play out of Aaron to get that piece moving forward. And we'll see what happens. I mean, 125 is a really good score, and yeah, they're all bunched up at 5-3. So we'll see where
Hmm.
everything kind of shakes loose in the next couple weeks. All right, let's go with your matchup, which
Yeah.
was an awesome matchup. Um, Ends up
Yes, it
being
was.
the hot, I think collectively the highest scoring matchup. Um, Unfortunate for Nils to hear that, but let me go in with Nils and kind of recap
Hmm.
his team. His team, I mean, the most points he scored in a week or all year. I'm sorry, for sure, and probably thought watching that CeeDee Lamb game, as you might have, that yeah, that's almost a surefire way of winning. I mean, granted, you did have the quarterback, so that does help. But
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Kirk Cousins, kind of the unsung quarterback hero, if you want to call it, as the early in the season for sure. Unfortunate injury. I mean, even though I do think Kirk Cousins is a huge dork, and he plays for the Vikings, that who I can't stand, but he's a pretty decent quarterback overall, I will say. Unfortunately, and I've kind of grown to kind of at least like him a little bit. I mean, maybe because of he's just so dorky, but um, Yeah, really, he was one of the last picks, I think, of the entire draft. So, and he's been one of the steadiest quarterbacks to date. Unfortunate injury. That sucks. That sucks to see a guy go down like that for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, he gets 23 from him before it. Waddle, as we touched on, just Miami had a great game. He had a great game. He had 7 catches, 121, a touchdown. He had 12 targets. So
Yeah.
huge game out of Waddle. We kind of touched on it, but just a monster game from CD Lamb. I mean, catches two,
Yes.
12 catches, 158 yards, 14 targets. I felt like every time I was looking up, he was catching it. So
Mhm.
yeah, they jumped on them pretty early. So I think that kind of touching back on that Pollard comment for sure. I think the passing game and the defense played so well that Pollard was a little bit phased out of it. But Stevenson 7, Foreman 4. I mean, if you're going to highlight anything, I mean, it's just that running back position again. Um, but his receivers did kind of deliver. Logan Thomas 16. That's a really good game. Gets in the end zone. He's been pretty consistent outside of a couple games. Logan Thomas, I know he was picked up probably after a couple weeks of waivers, but um, not a bad tight end to have, I think, especially just how thin that position is. Scary Terry gets in the end zone as well. That was a scary game if you're an Eagles fan. A lot of
Oh yeah.
points for sure, but
Oh yeah.
which is great. So yeah, really good performance from Nils overall. I mean, he scored 143. You really got to run into the second highest point total of the week. Um,
Yeah.
if you and I think he had the fourth. So yeah, it's unfortunate for Nils, he could have tried to get to a point where and should have maybe most likely if he played anyone else. Um, could have got to a point where he was right on the outside looking in, and unfortunately now he's closer to the guys that are down the bottom. But I'll let you take your team away. Once again, puts up monster points.
Yeah, well, what a battle. Tip of the cap to the beat for sure. It was a hellacious battle between two great teams. But I feel like, you know, it's just tough to lose a game like that when you score 143 and you think you're doing everything right on your end. It's like, oh wow, I got monster performance from CD, monster performance from Waddle, and then a couple guys like Washington. He plays two Washington guys. I mean, I didn't expect. I was like, yeah. I felt like okay, I felt pretty good. Like I mean, I know Terry's gonna do his thing. I'm like Logan Thomas, he probably won't have a good game, and they both get touchdowns. I'm like, oh boy, and then Waddle gets a big touchdown. I'm like, oh, I didn't really like my chances. I was like, I might lose it here, but those are the 1 o'clock games and going into the 4 o'clock. So obviously, and I also knew Kirk, even though Kirk got hurt, I know he initially his numbers were low because they didn't really need him. The Akers scored a touchdown and whatnot, but like it's like, oh, it's only a matter of time. He's going to score a couple. He's going to throw a couple touchdowns. I saw it. I'm like, oh, here we go. It's like, wow, we're going to have a barn burner on our hands, folks. But luckily for me, my team steps up again. Just it's amazing, really, the consistency that I've been getting from. I'm going to highlight the two guys that have really been carrying the load for my team, and that's Christian McCaffrey and ETN. Starting McCaffrey, of course, in the 4 o'clock game. Was really hoping and praying that he would continue his touchdown streak. He did, and he really did. Scores 29 points, and they really rode him a lot. They ride him all the time. I mean, they just keep going to him, and that's perfect for me to hear that. And then of course ETN with another great game. I mean, didn't you know? I'm
Terry
didn't expect it. I didn't expect him to have this kind of a
for
of
this
a
run.
monstrous run, as you can see, and the highlighted little blurb there. 25 in this matchup here. So it's just really, really, really great to have these guys do so well for me. And then of course Brees, my keeper, my the guy that I was hoping and praying that he was gonna like come back and bounce back, and that have Dalvin Cook not be a factor. And sure enough, I got the
He's
best of
back.
both worlds. Dalvin Cook is not a factor, and Brees Hall is the real deal. Holyfield, like he's a monster. So I love him, and I love the fact that he's on my team. So doing great things, and it's consistent from my receivers this week. I went with Brees obviously over DJ Moore, and it pans out on my flex spot. I mean, if you look at
Hmm.
my bench, really didn't really, yeah, and you see my bench. Same thing. You look at the point total, like 126 on my bench. I mean, my bench could have won most match. I wouldn't have won this matchup here, but like could have won other matchups against other teams with just my bench. I mean, it's just
Sure.
it's amazing how my guys are playing. So I mean, I'm really happy to see that. And then of course, like the consistency that I want to see from my QB spot, I got this week from Dak Prescott. I mean, Dak Prescott has 36 fantasy points. He throws 4 touchdowns to 1 pick, and looks like that offense might be getting into a rhythm. Now we'll see if he can do it against the Philadelphia Eagles. Where it remains to be seen. I'm probably going to go with him this week, starting this week again. So we're hoping and praying on my end that he continues his run. But yeah, really great performance from my team. And I said 5-3, still have the most points. I know Ben's creeping behind me, but I'm happy to see that I get a little bit of a streak going. So 5-3, good win, but great battle, and definitely had to sweat it out again. But I'm glad to have taken the victory here.
Yeah, you just keep rolling. I mean, not to kind of keep hyping the Finkel train, we'll call it, but um the three, this is the funny conversation of this league is do guys, who it was literally wide receiver heavy, which is the Beeve, versus kind of running back heavy, just in terms of like playing through running backs and playing through receivers, and kind of
Yep.
the structure of your team. I'm not really kind of saying that either one has bad receivers. Obviously, you have Keenan Allen and Thielen going this week, but the fact that you can get 75, 80 points from your three running backs, somewhere around there, that's a huge week. And just
Oh yeah.
shows you that if you have horses, that those are the guys to ride. You know what I mean? And even in a full point PPR, RBs, a surefire RBs like that are getting all the work are still, I think, more valuable, in my opinion. But
Yep.
great win. It's a good win.
Definitely
All
a great
right.
matchup, bro.
Let's finish strong. Let's finish
Here,
strong.
here we go.
Well, we've done it. Not the prettiest, probably the ugliest matchup of the week. The only team that didn't crack the century mark was Phil, unfortunately, for him. And yeah, I mean, I'll let you take over, Phil's team a little bit. I mean, there's not a lot, unfortunately, more lowlights than highlights, but God,
Yeah, for sure. Just not the point total that Mr. White wanted to see. 85 points is just not going to get it done, and it's unfortunate because he expected much more. I'm assuming, and we all did from Devontae Adams. Just a dismal performance by the Raiders. I don't understand what the hell they were doing, and it leads to them firing their coach. McDaniels is gone, and obviously they have a new
see ya.
coach in Antonio Pierce. So remains to be seen if he's a good head coach. I mean, I doubt it. So but maybe they're gonna get Devontae Adams involved because he's black. He's black. Get him involved. Nah, but no, they need to find the way to get Devontae Adams football. I mean, it's abundantly clear. But as also Garoppolo's not named the starter anymore. So
Yep.
they have a new quarterback, so it's like, do they have that chemistry? I don't know. It's gonna be tough. I mean, but this is what Devontae Adams wanted. He wanted to be traded, go from Green Bay to the Raiders, obviously with Derek Carr, his college teammate. So he's not there anymore, and stuck with Jimmy Garoppolo, and they had some big numbers, but yeah, that's just the main. I think that's the main reason why he couldn't find a way to eclipse the century mark. Of course, I'm not saying he was going to beat you with a big Devontae Adams performance, but just 2 points in a full point PPR league is just not what you want from your stud player. So, running down the rest of his team, I mean, obviously he starts Russell Wilson, and surprisingly, Russell Wilson gets 23, and they win. They win the game, so they beat the Chiefs. Nobody expected that, and he hooks up with obviously Cortland Sutton for his receiving touchdown there. He gets 10. But yeah, nothing really to write home about. Kenny Walker only 8. I mean, surprisingly they get the victory. I mean, they were playing home, but Cleveland's coming in as a great defense, and it's really been putting a hurting on teams. And I mean, maybe that's why Walker can't find the end zone. But and then also Madison too. Madison, I liked him. I always liked him because in the games that Dalvin Cook was hurt, and he was hurt plenty over the course of his career in Minnesota. Madison always like slid in and filled in pretty well. But I think if you give him like 15 to 20 carries, I mean, as you can see, 93, 95 yards. when he gets those carries, and then he drops to 44. When he gets 18, but he gets receptions. So if he gets receptions and gets some yardage, I mean, he can get you 10 to 15 points, but he only gets four. Was stymied, and then of course he gets vultured by Cam Akers for a touchdown. So I mean, obviously, if you're a Madison owner, you're furious because you're like, that's my touchdown. Why is he giving it to him? But fortunate, obviously, for you that that didn't happen, and nothing, no other point total. I mean, his defense was the second best player. The Giants, obviously, was a great streaming option for him, but you can't feel too good about that when like, oh damn, my defense was my second best player. So you look at his bench. I mean, a couple of guys, but it's like
Nothing
you never
really.
know. You can't really you can't really predict that. But
No, I played his
you
team.
know, yeah, for sure. And it's like they just this is the team that he has. He has to roll with it. I mean, I don't know if he's looking to make any moves. It's who knows? He has two tight ends, but like I don't know. It's just like it seems to be a rough go ahead for Colombian White. But he's got the time is now to right the ship. But for you, it's a big win. You get the victory, and off the heels of a good performance by Cincinnati, Burrow gets you 33, and I think the unsung hero for you, I'm gonna let you touch on it. Who would that be, sir? Who's the guy that
Well,
got you that victory?
we'll run it down, and then we'll certainly highlight the guy that really kept me in the game, kept me alive on Sunday Night Football. But got to start with Joe Burrow. I mean, he's back. He looked. There was a play or two there where he was scrambling. There was a play that I don't know if it was a drawn up play where he dropped back and then ran it, which was you don't do that if he's not healthy. And so I think he's feeling better. He's noted it a couple times. Could have almost had four. I mean, they run it in late there with Mixon getting a late touchdown, but I just looked good. He 43 rushing yards to highlight that. Like I said, the he's healed. He's healed enough to be moving around. So that's good to see. And against San Fran on the road, it's definitely a good note to move forward with. Big letdown from Cooper Kupp. I mean, they were down big early. And I just anticipated that they'd throw more and look his way more. Stafford got banged up. We kind of noted Nakua not having a great game. No, I don't think anyone really had a great game, obviously, from the Rams' perspective, but a little concerning. Cooper Kupp is a little concerning now. Sharing that team with Nakua. If Stafford is out this week or maybe moving forward, it's a little concerning. Just not the monster consistency that I was hoping for. It started out that way. Last two games have been a little disappointing. T. Higgins, I just play your guys, as I've noted. Cool game. It doesn't do anything, kind of a modest double-digit performance I'm happy with. Pacheco, that was just a weird Kansas City game. I'm kind of throwing it as an anomaly. I mean, this was his worst game of the season by far, but I think it was the worst game for their entire team by far. We kind of noted James Cook last week and how disappointing that was, but was the right play between him and Jones. Unfortunately, I mean, it was basically a wash. And then, I'd let you deliver the punch phrase, but Sunday night, this is the guy I needed.
Yep, Cole Kmet from zero to hero, literally and figuratively. As you can look at that, last week he gets him zero. No, can we scroll down a little bit? Can you see that? Can you see that total, folks? Zero, no targets, no receptions, and then with a huge performance from him, and it propels you to that victory.
Yeah, I mean, it was really nice to see. I mean, it was essentially coming down to look like another really disappointing loss for Greenville. I kind of talked about it and I forgot to even put a bid in for Taysom Hill last week, which was idiotic. Obviously lose out on him, see him through. I think he threw for a touchdown or rushed for a touchdown. Something happened.
Yeah,
he had a huge game.
Great game.
So just seeing that really hurt because I'm like, I should have made a move there, especially missing out earlier in the week with the Kincaid talks, as we mentioned with Aaron. I feel like it was like a Western standoff for 2 days with me and him just going back and forth. And then seeing the deal go through was painful. But Cole Kmet, I mean, like I said, he's been pretty consistent. Didn't really know what to expect with Bajent. But he was looking his way and looking his way pretty often, and not a lot of yards, but a lot of volume, which was really nice to see. Essentially wins it for me. Gives me basically a heads up matchup, up a couple points with Jacobs and Adams. I mean, granted, Adams might have had two bombs if Jimmy G could actually throw the ball,
Yeah.
which would have been lights out for Gio. But yeah, Cole Kmet, huge, huge performance for me in a spot where I always kind of highlight thinking that that's easily my weakest position. Unfortunately, it is the tight end spot, but he's had a couple big weeks for me, so got to give it up for the guy. Jacobs came through, scores that one a little shaky, looked like he was coming out of the game, but he scores and gets me 16. That's all I needed. Just do your job, do your part. 105 again is not a good score by any means. I'm still the lowest point total in the league. Um, but yeah, happy to get a win. Huge win for me. Um, and as we move into week 8, I'm sorry, week 9.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. But as we move into week 9, it gets me even with the two Snyders who actually play each other. So, big win for Green Bull, and I think we should just touch on. We'll just go over to the look at maybe just read off. I should say we don't have to go into the breakdown, but a little rivalry that we've been kind of building in the last 2 years, which we like to call the North versus the South.
Oh, yeah.
Not a lot to really kind of go back and forth on because we kind of touched on the players, but um, got to give the North their credit, unfortunately, on the pod here, because we know missing Snyder, we have two Southerners technically that are talking and doing the breakdown, so we kind of can't be too biased about the whole thing, but hats off to them. They had a couple really big point totals that we really had would have been had a tough time to try to make up. We just didn't get a lot of touchdowns, unfortunately, from our team. So North takes it, even with maybe an asterisk that we did say we wanted to put Herbert in. I will say that it was documented prior to the 1 o'clocks. Unfortunately, all of us, none of us had a chance or did verbalize it in the group chat,
Yeah.
which didn't really even matter. So it was kind of a moot point. But the North takes it by, we'll call it 40 points. If we even make that swap with Herbert, or if they allowed it, we lose by 6 or something like that. So, um, yeah, hats off to them. I mean, they had a great week. They're now 2-0 in 2 consecutive years. I won't go into the player breakdown because we kind of talked about some of the big hitters this week and we know where they stood. But I will say that last year the North beat us and champion came from the North. So foreshadowing, I don't know. South definitely have some heavy hitters this year, it looks like roster wise, but you never know. So hats off to the North. Credit to the North. The North remembers. All right, let's
Damn
move
it.
on to week
Darn
9.
it.
All right, let's do a quick little rundown, maybe, and we'll get our power rankings. I do want to make a quick note. Snyder and I went 4-2 in our pick'ems, but the debut of the co-host Finkel Einhorn, Anthony, goes 6-0. So
Wow.
people might want to tune in, crank your little your radios or volume up. We're about to go in our pick'ems for week 9.
Here we go, baby. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's hope for another big week. It's gonna be interesting. A lot of interesting matchups for sure. But let's get into it.
All right, we'll go top down again.
Mhm.
And again, we're shooting this on or recording this on a Friday, so we do have Thursday night kind of point totals to play and helping some of the pick'ems as well. So yeah, I mean, just on paper, this looks pretty ugly. At least how it looks right now. And I don't understand this projection though. Taysom Hill is projected 2. He
Yeah,
just
very
had
bizarre.
he just had this monster week. So just I'm more so highlighting the George Pickens. I mean, I had George Pickens in another league, not to bring up another league, but
Yeah.
I share the misery of that game. And he didn't get his feet down. on what should have been at least a score, at least a salvageable score if he gets in there. So yeah,
Mhm.
rough start for Logue. He's playing the double tight end at least right now. So relying on Cooper and Pickens to be kind of your PPR guys as a receiver, just has really no options right now.
No,
Oof, bench is looking tough. Yeah, that's a tough way to start. Herbert's got a pretty low projection. I mean, the Jets do have a good defense. Brian Robinson seems to be just kind of steady, at least producing wise. I mean, he's right around that total, but I mean, tough. I guess tough New England game. They're only projecting 8, so projections are a little goofy here. Um, but I do think that unfortunately that start is going to be tough to kind of build off of, especially with him playing the double tight ends this week. He needs touchdowns.
for
So
sure.
tough out. I'm gonna let you go over Bandits for real quick and you can just highlight some matchups.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like it's the usual suspects with him based on his performance from last week, his victory. So mostly everybody stays the same. He obviously slots in Chuba Hubbard in his flex spot with Ridley being on bye. So I really don't think there is much to really go into in the sense that like I feel like he's going to have, you know, a good performance from his players. I mean, definitely a couple tough matchups. I mean, but like we saw Chase last week, against the Niners. And Niners have been a great defense. I mean, albeit they've been a little bit weaker the last couple of weeks. Same with Buffalo. Buffalo's has some key guys go out with injuries. So same thing. They're playing at home, primetime game. I feel like Chase is going to project 20, and he might reach that mark for sure. So definitely. Obviously his defense only gets him one to start off. I mean, he's thinking, okay, they are playing on the road though, so I feel like sometimes when your defense plays on the road, it might be a little tougher. So if you want to call them a streaming defense, you can. Pittsburgh has not the greatest offense. They only put up 20 and they only score like I think one touchdown and everything else is field goals. But gets him one. But his Pickens gets him 1 point on the other side. So yeah, definitely. I'm definitely leaning towards Aaron here to pull out the victory, based
Yeah,
on not based on projections, but yeah, starting two tight ends just based on at this point your bench isn't the greatest, and Connor's still being on IR. You're kind of forced to do that. But Taysom Hill has been a part of their offense the last couple of weeks, so he's going to find a way to, whether it's throwing, catching, or running, he might score a touchdown. You know what I mean. But it's just gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough to to overcome the Bandits. So unfortunately for Logue, I mean, he's kind of in uncharted territory. If he loses, it'll be under 500. He's out of the playoff picture, and he's been a perennial playoff team. So I mean, I'm sure Logan is kind of furious at where he's at right now. But I mean, a long season to go. So Mr. Logue, you have time to turn it around, but I don't think it's going to come this week. Unfortunately, Mr. Bandit is going to win this matchup for me.
yeah, I agree. Just it's all about horses. I keep referencing that, but like there's a difference between a good fit, like a steady fancy player, and guys that can just put up big points. The big time guys, the big time heavy hitters, and there's few of those guys in the league, and I think Jamar Chase is one of them. Um, and that right there alone is a big trump card, I think, in this matchup. Especially with one of his receivers putting up 2. So I just it's hard for me to look at Lowe's team how it's structured. Now he's surprised me before, so who knows? Maybe this is good faith for him. But I just think that Aaron's team's built really well, and he really has options even at that flex position. If he kind of wants to roll the dice with Watson, he could. You know what I mean? So it's not set in stone yet. I mean, I think Hubbard gets the start, but he's still going to split carries with Sanders still. So yeah, I think just too much firepower.
For sure.
Oh, we don't want to go to there yet.
No, I'll save that one. Save that
Yeah.
for last. Hmm.
We'll go we'll go in a tough one here. Just meaning that just from the point total perspective, looks like a little bit more lopsided than it might be, just based on the big output. But yeah, Andy coming in rolling as we mentioned, at 6-2, the only 6-2 team, and first place overall. He does not get the first seed or first place bugaboo last week. I think it was the first team on the pod that we talked about that was first and actually won the following week.
Yep.
So the curse is now broken. But he's first place again going into this week, and again, heavy hitters. Starting Thursday night, he gets a really good game. Deontay Johnson finally scores. Good Lord, that
Yes.
guy just could not get in the end zone.
I know.
But finds one late for the winning touchdown for Pittsburgh. Gets a really good performance. 22 is great. You don't win or lose, like you said, on Thursday Night Football, just with one guy or two guys, but really nice start, considering all these other guys that he's going to have this week.
Hmm.
Hurts against Dallas. Dallas is a great defense, but they are on the road, as you mentioned. So, that could definitely be a difference in terms of the amount of pressure, and kind of Hurts kind of maybe being um, having less chances of having a down game against a good defense, we'll say, because he's home. Tyreek at KC in Germany. Gotta expect he wants to go off, and probably will
Yeah.
go off. I think there should be a lot of points in that game. I don't know. I just feel like there should be, and hope there should be. And then, yeah, I mean, just the rest of his team looking decent. Now he's got Hunter Henry lined up, as you mentioned, in that tight end spot. So we'll see. I don't think he's been a really good cog, or consistent cog of like anything that's going on in that offense outside of the first couple of weeks, as you can see here. Um,
Mhm.
Barely getting any targets and catches. So tough treading in the tight end market if you don't have one, or lose one, I should say, to injury. So, but good outing outside of that in terms of his team. And I'll let you kind of, I mean, we can kind of look at the beef here. I mean, he's got Derek Carr kind of starting it, and you can kind of take in the matchups from there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously the Kirk Cousins injury, tears his Achilles and put on IR. So just a unfortunate set of circumstances for Beef. Derek Carr, last time we saw him in prime time, I mean, he was not looking too hot, but bounces back a little bit last week. I believe with 22 fantasy points against Indianapolis. So and they got the victory. I mean, he did not look good against Jacksonville on Thursday night. He just the week before. So it was just very very odd. But it is what it is. He needs to realize probably he's not going to outscore Jalen Hurts. It's going to be tough to outscore him. He just needs his other guys to hit. And
Mm-hmm.
hopefully for him, I mean, I expect everyone expects a high point total in the Kansas City Miami game. When you have Kansas City and Miami like two heavy hitters, you expect the over and under on that game is probably really high. So but it's the NFL. At any given Sunday, anything will happen. So remains to be seen there. It's gonna be tough. Obviously with Dre getting off to a great start with 22 points. I mean, you don't win or lose on Thursday night, but it's tough to overcome a 22-point performance. You don't expect him to get that much. I mean, like but his team is good, and I just feel like unfortunately for Beeve, I just think he's just not going to be able to overcome Dre's top dogs. I mean, Tyreek wants to give them the work, as he eloquently put it. So he's gonna have a great game. Hurts should have a great game, but just baby buyer beware here. They're playing against Dallas, so Dallas is a very good defense, and he might get 20 points. They might win the game, but he might only get 20 to 18. I mean, it might be a low scoring game, but obviously we don't want to see that. We want to see a lot of points, and but I feel like I feel like Dre's gonna pull out the victory here, and still sit high at 7-2 and in the first place. So remains to be seen, but that's where my gut tells me this week.
Yeah, I was riding. I was going to ride Dre as well, even before the Thursday night matchup. Just kind of looking at it before I knew what we were kind of shoot it as, or record this as. So, but yeah, I just think again, just too much firepower. I mean, in a couple nice little matchups. I mean, he's got Taylor at Carolina. Um, a lot riding on both ends. I think in terms of that, CD Lamb matchup, and really between two games, I should say, the Dallas Eagles game and Kansas City Miami in this matchup, just based on the heavy hitter that they have. So, but I just think too much firepower again. Dre's kind of rolling, and I think he keeps it going. I got Dre in this one as well.
Mhm.
Another kind of ugly one, at least how it stands now. But Yeah, Arby's and Riggs. Another really good matchup coming into it. You know, I think Riggs can um, was hopeful, we'll say. Um, but again, I'll take Riggs' team real quick and highlight the fact because it's kind of been a running theme with him, unfortunately, is this quarterback bugaboo that and carousel that he keeps riding. And Fields, unfortunately, gets hurt, makes it harder on himself. Kind of trying to play hot hands, just positionally wise. I mean, he had Love after a pretty strong start, I will say, from the guy. But yeah, unfortunately, I think he had CJ Stroud at some point. Still has him, could have played him maybe, possibly. I mean, Tampa Bay has a good defense, so but he is home. So he just, picks up the young rook and throws him out there, and fortunately only gets him 8 to start the week. So again, tough when you're looking across the board at Arby's team and have your quarterback only put up 8 to start the week. And then some matchups. I mean, kind of looking at Steve's team, not awful, but I mean, again, he has to play. He's forced to play, Justice Hill this week with Gibbs and Javonte Williams on bye. So maybe should have looked at that. With that trade, I guess potentially, in terms of he does get Kincaid, but now he doesn't really have an RB2 to play this week in a tough matchup against a guy that's been, putting up a lot of points and has some big guns. So, I mean, I don't, it looks bleak. I'll say that, especially with the quarterback doing what he did. So, but yeah, take it away. I mean, because Arby's gets some points, plays a couple Titans.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously he needed a tight end with his stud Laporta on bye. So yeah, it's really tough to figure out who you're going to get on a consistent basis. I mean, I personally would have went with a Okonkwo. I mean, I don't think a lot of fantasy analysts were saying, okay, this guy might be a tight end to target. I knew nothing about him personally. I knew not one single thing about this guy. So I was like, all right, I'm not. There's no way I'm going to draft him, and he's been mediocre at best. That's putting it politely. I mean, he's actually been
Pretty
pretty bad.
terrible.
So, and he had 0 for most of the night. I was like, oh, Arby's gonna. He kind of like went through the ringer, probably trying to figure out who he picks up. Cade Otton, and he's like, oh, never mind. I'm going to drop him. I'm going to pick up Okonkwo. That's like, man, like I don't, he had no idea probably who to pick up. It's so tough in this barren wasteland of tight ends that we live in. But yeah, he salvages his pathetic fantasy night with a couple catches at the end of the game when they tried to make it interesting, and then of course the Levi's, whatever you want to pronounce it, with the interception in the end zone. So yeah, so I feel like, but he gets 19 from Derrick Henry, and he scores touchdowns, so he gets very beneficial with that. So, in his flex, he's going with Douglas from the New England Patriots. I know they have, born with the IR injury. I mean, it's tough when you have, I don't know. I think I maybe would have went with Dotson. Maybe ride the hot
Still
streak.
could. Yeah.
Yeah, still could. I mean, that's just this is projected to do that. But Warren's been consistent too. I mean, Warren's looked. He's got a lot of burst, a lot of burst of speed. I mean, I like this guy. Like this guy's game. I mean, he's just like, even if you get 8, you don't expect he's like a complementary piece to that team. But
Mhm.
he's involved in the offense, and like he gets catches out the back. And I think, I mean, it's not really going out a limb here, but I feel like Jalen Warren might be the new starting running back for the Steelers going forward, not from next week. I'm just saying starting maybe next year. I mean, next year they decide, hey, he's going to be the starter, and Najee better get his active gear, or else he's going to be on the bench. So I mean, it's just like a piece that Arby's probably didn't think that he would have on his team to to plug in and play, and his flex has gotten him some points in the season. So, but the matchup itself, I mean, yeah, Josh Allen, Tony, AJ Brown, Nico Collins. I mean, these are consistent guys. So it's just based on projections notwithstanding. I mean, it's tough. We get 8 points from a QB. We've seen in this league. I mean, you get 8, you get 5, you get 13. Some of these point totals that we've touched on in this podcast today. It's just it's going to be tough to come back and win. And unfortunately for Steve, he's looking down a big deficit here. But I just feel like Arby's with those two studs that he has on his side. might pull out the victory here. So it's about the slimmest of margins. I'm gonna go with Arby's to get the victory. I'm glad Riggs got his victory last week to get back to 500, but it's gonna be tough to come back from the eight points from the quarterback, and he still has some guys that could pop off. I mean, and Addison's been hot, but it's like without Kirk Cousins, is he gonna have the same great game as he has? He's been great. I mean, that's definitely most likely he's got to think long and hard who he could possibly keep. He's got Gibbs, he's got Addison, he's got two great guys, but Gibbs on bye this week, so it's just he has to hope that for sure. But I feel like Arby's with the slimmest of margins will pull this one out.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we're 3 for 3. Unfortunately, I mean, maybe some of these projections are definitely wavering from some Thursday night action that we might have changed had we done this maybe on a Thursday or a Wednesday. But yeah, just too much to make up. I think if those guys just do what they normally do from Arby's side, and he would need some really really big games, I think, to unfortunately come back from his quarterback on Thursday night, Steve. So yeah, I got Arby's as well.
Mhm.
Oh man, the toilet bowl potentially for this week.
Oh yeah,
I'll say for this week because I'm 2-6 as well. I can't talk, but someone's got to lose. Someone's got to lose this game. So
that's good way to put it.
I'll man, this is a tough one. This is a tough one to do without Snyder. He'd be distraught to go over his team here, but
I know.
why don't you go over Phil's team? I'll do
Yeah,
Snyder.
for sure. Oh, for sure. That's fair. Yeah. So Phil looking to bounce back after last week's bad performance from his team, 85 points. Going with Baker Mayfield in the starting lineup on the road against Houston.
Bad.
Let's hope that he can, bounce back. I mean, he's obviously was on the injury report. He's off it now, so like, obviously this week. I mean, it shows it in the little blurb there. There's a handful of underwhelming quarterback options. There really is. So it's like you're forced to play guys. I mean, like, but like, unfortunately for him, I mean, that's he's waiting for Kyler Murray to come back, who's like, still on the pup list. I mean, it's just pup, coming. He's obviously coming back, but we don't know exactly if he's going to start this week. I wouldn't assume they're going to throw him to the Wolves and start him at Cleveland. Not a very wise decision, you know. But like at the same time, he's going with Baker, so we touched on it earlier. He needs Devontae Adams to bounce back in the worst way, because I mean he's him and Kelsey are his two best players, and I expect Kelsey to always be involved in that offense. I mean, but at the same time, new coach, maybe new system, obviously new quarterback in LA and Las Vegas. So unfortunately, you know, he didn't get a great performance last week, but yeah, it's tough. Projections favors Phil in this matchup. And it's like the battle of the brothers. We have obviously two of those
Yeah.
matchups in the league this week. So sibling rivalries here. And of course, both brothers looking to get the victory to like pull them out of the cellar, hopefully. And obviously the indicative of your matchup with me. So it's tough to say. I mean, based on that, Kyle Pitts, I expect Kyle Pitts to have a good game this week. And the reason why I say that is because we have a quarterback change. Tyler Heinicke, obviously, is a new starting quarterback. Desmond Ritter is out as a starter. So and also Drake London being out with an injury. So maybe, they tried. I don't know if it's going to happen. I mean, we say that every week about Kyle Pitts. Is he going to be more involved? Get this guy the ball. Unfortunately, he only has one receiving touchdown in his career itself as well. It's been not a lot of opportunities in the red zone for sure. But I'm expecting a big Kyle Pitts game. I know, like, not really going out a limb saying that. I mean, with London being out, but hey, maybe they decide, what, we're gonna attack. We're playing at home. Let's or maybe it's a big Bijan game. But I mean, it's just this. If he doesn't do it now, when is he gonna do it? When are we gonna get the big Kyle Pitts game? So maybe this is it for him, and he's gonna need it for sure to get that third win. But as far as matchup goes, it's tough to say. I mean, Snyder obviously with Kamara going off every week, and it's just like Geno playing on the road against the Ravens might be a tough matchup for sure. This is another too close to call for me. I mean, I wasn't very confident picking Steve, Arby's over Steve. That could go either way. This could go either way too, based on record, based on certain matchups. But I'm actually going to take Phil for the victory. I'm gonna
Wow.
take Columbia and
Why
White. No, Sorry, Train. I mean, no, this is no slight to you at all. I mean, it's tough. I mean, it's tough to say. I mean, I'm not, if I'm predicting a big Kyle Pitts game, I'm not really predicting a big John Smith game, even though he's been involved in the offense for sure. So, and with Kelsey, I think Devontae, you have to think they give him the rock and bounce back, and I don't think there's any really changes on from his bench, for sure. And maybe Train decides that he's going to play Gabe Davis over maybe Zay Flowers. I don't know. I mean, but remains to be seen. But I'm going to give the slight edge to Colombian White to get his third victory here.
Yeah, this is a really close projection matchup. Even on paper, like you mentioned, I kind of looking at it. Snyder does have some tough matchups here. To your point, I mean, going into Baltimore with the stack of DK and Geno, I mean, tough. It's just tough to trust Geno to do anything besides 17, which is like not a really that great of a week from your quarterback. He hasn't really done anything besides that, besides week 2. So I mean, not getting a crazy, pop from your quarterback, and then you're trying to add in DK Metcalf, who like has been, I think, pretty consistent overall. I mean, 11 last week, so 14 targets. I mean, he was a target monster last week, but like all in all, I mean, if your quarterback's only getting 17, your ceiling isn't just not that high as a receiver. I mean, Wilson's been solid. Kamara, I expect to have a huge game again against Chicago, but that's really the only kind of surefire things is maybe Garrett Wilson getting a ton of targets, Kamara getting a ton of targets, and that's about it. And then on Phil's side, same thing. I mean, he needs a couple of pops. This is a close one. I'm going to go with Snai. So we split. It's because I think it's going to be a split matchup, and just outside of a couple of points is really going to be the difference maker here. Now you're right. I mean, Phil does have some guys that if they pop off, Adams, Kelsey expected, maybe Pitts. Yeah, could be interesting. But I'm going to go with Snyder. We'll split there.
Yep.
Somebody's going 2-7.
Unfortunately for them, yeah, for sure.
Here we go. Let's move along. Ship Lizard and Tiburon. Tiburon looking to bounce back, as well as Ship Lizard, I should say. I mean, he's been unfortunately after a pretty hot start, cooled off. We'll say had 2 tough losses in a row. I'll go with Ship Lizard here in terms of just kind of breaking it down. Got to expect a bounce back from P Mahomes. I mean, I think he's going to go off this week, playing against Miami. Just my expectation overall is I think Kansas City comes in wanting to get the ship right, or try to at least. So I anticipate it, and it's an Andy Reid coach team, as opposed to McDaniels. Who's kind of like a loosey goosey, kind of weird coach. So them traveling to Germany, I feel like Andy Reid will have his team a little bit more buttoned up. Maybe, I don't know. I think they're just the standard, right? Kansas City. So it's kind of hard for me to imagine that Mahomes won't have a good week this week. So I think Diggs again against Cincinnati, expect a lot of points in that matchup as well. Between those two teams, a lot of emotion obviously coming into a Sunday night game from what happened last year, but I do anticipate both offenses and both teams scoring, and scoring quite often, I think, in that game. Plays Hopkins. I guess you kind of have to after the 3 score.
Oh yeah.
But gets 10, and he was a little banged up during the week. Tough Pittsburgh matchup. I think Joey Porter Jr. we mentioned on the pod a couple times, was a really nice piece for Pittsburgh. They're tough. They have tough defense. That's been keeping them in the games, keeping them afloat. I mean, their offense hasn't been spectacular by any means, but their defense is pretty good. I know Mixon is questionable. Oh, I didn't even realize he has DeMarcado still lined up here. His number 1 running back, or maybe that was Ingram. I can't remember. Interesting. I guess he's going to have to maybe play Roshan or Ingram. So I guess something will change at least in terms of these projections, but not that we're looking at that. We're kind of just going through matchups. McBride had a huge game last week. This guy, he was like one of the waiver tight end of the week, and he certainly popped. So playing him this week with Kittle on bye, good play, I think, regardless of the quarterback. Tough matchup um, at Cleveland, as you mentioned. So it'll be interesting. I think Nakua is banged up too, and Mixon. Mixon's supposed to play. I don't know Nakua's status. Probably gonna play. Of course, he'll play. Playing against the
Yeah,
Packers.
sure. Okay. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, it'll be. That's really it. I mean, it's got really no decisions outside of just who he's gonna plug and play in that RB2 role. And on the flip side, I mean, Brian's doing the same thing with Pierce out. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I feel like it's like you're playing Musgrave and Andrews, so it's like, it's tough to have a tight end in your flex. I mean, but we have the ability to do that. So unfortunately for him, he can do that and plug him in. But it's a tough one as well. I mean, yeah, obviously it's low scoring now because he has a guy with 0 in his lineup at the moment. It's just gonna be tough to say. Obviously Arizona starting, if Kyler Murray doesn't start, you're starting Clayton Tune. That's his name. That's not a made up name. That is his real name. It's insane to think that he's a starting quarterback for an NFL team. So I'm tempering my expectations for Arizona. I think Arizona gets destroyed if he starts, if he's a starter. But like, I mean, he just got to hope and pray that Mahomes obviously can bounce back, which I think he will from his 5-point performance last week. So obviously three, I think 2 studs for sure, Mahomes and Diggs. And then, of course, Nakua has played like a stud, obviously, statistically. His stats will show that, but him being banged up. But it's also, too, if Stafford doesn't play, what's to say that he has a bad game, a good bad game, or good game? He's probably going to have a bad game. Because I don't expect big performances from them if Stafford is out. Stafford's in, I expect a pretty good game from the Rams because Green Bay is not really a good defense. They do play at home, but still, like, yeah, they're just not a lot of confidence out of Green Bay. And on the other side for Ryan, he's starting a couple guys that you don't think you're going to see a lot of lineups around the league. Obviously, based on, unfortunately, St. Brown and is on a bye, and also Ayuk is on a bye as well. Yes,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
unfortunately he's got that to contend with. So not really. I'm not expecting a high scoring game from him, just based on a couple guys being out. It's tough to call as well. I don't really know. This is might be the toughest one for me to call.
I
Just to
agree.
say, because like I just don't like, it's just this might be tough to continue my hot streak for predictions from last week. But gun to my head, trying to take a pick of who would win. I just think just based on the fact that, like, I mean, if DeMarco's out and you slide Ingram in, okay, that's great. But I just feel like I'm just gonna go off the cuff here and just pick Shit Blizzard to win this game, just based on the fact that he has 2 studs in Mahomes and Diggs that are going to put up monster numbers. And yeah, I don't really see, besides obviously Lamar and obviously Andrews. Those are 2 great guys for him. Unless Bijan has a freaking finally a monster game with 20-25 points, I don't think he's going to be able to overcome it. So, close call, coin flip as well. But, Mr. Leahy will get the victory here.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that even some of the deficiencies, because both I think are having some bye week issues, and injury issues in some cases. But if Rick is just going to be playing somebody at the RB2 spot, I think the rest of his team looks decent enough. It has the horses enough to put up some points. Not to say Ryan isn't. Ryan's got a good team as well for sure, and has some good players on that end. But he's playing Kareem Hunt this week. As that just has to put in somebody, the Musgraves play, or Njoku, I guess he does a third tight end if he wants to go that route. And then Cooks. I mean, Cooks has been good, or had a couple good games, I should say, especially the last 2 weeks. But can you rely on that guy on a tough game at Philly? Tough. You never know. It's kind of throwing a dart. But yeah, I like Rick as well, and I just think that it's a get right game for Rick. He needs it for sure.
Definitely. Also, PSA to Tiburon. I don't know why Chase Claypool is still on your roster. Don't really know why. I don't think he has any value. So, like, I guess
Gonna
the
trade
weird.
him.
I don't know, man. Your trade deadline's over, brother. Claypool sucks. Get him off your roster. No, I just joking a little bit, but
No, he's not doing anything. But yeah, I mean, I think I also think just a PSA as well, or kind of background. You know, a lot of shit talk going between Rick and Ryan about this week 9 matchup.
oh
Just
yes,
going back and forth. So definitely a lot of banter will be heard coming off of this week. So interested to see that at least. So here we go. Might as well
here you
finish with
go.
the second brotherly matchup of the week and the two hosts of the pod. Um, Tough week to catch you, at least for you. Good
Yeah,
week for me.
true. Oh yeah.
Um, Still just not projection. Still can't get my team to get projected over this 110, 112 mark. I don't know why. Um, it is what it is. But yeah, happy to see some of your guys not being in the lineup this week. I'll let you
Yeah, oh
take
yeah,
your team
definitely.
away.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, and drafting, usually when you draft, you kind of look. I mean, I always look, okay, I don't want to pick the two guys with the same buy, receiver, running back, quarterback. Obviously, you don't want to do that because you have two quarterbacks. Oh shit, I'm scrambling. And I take pride in the draft. I mean, I really do. That's why sometimes I might not make a trade because I really take pride in the draft. I mean, I don't like, because I see it as okay, maybe it's a failure. Oh shit, I dropped this guy. He sucks. Like like a Danny Jones. Like, oh man, I wasn't really well prepared for the draft. But yeah, unfortunately for me, the guys that have played great for me are both on bye. So it's very fortunate for you that you catch McCaffrey and ETN on a bye. I mean, and it's not been very many weeks where my team is projected to lose, especially to start off the year. Even starting off the year, obviously, and moving along. I mean, I think I was projected to lose maybe once or twice, and I just I went away either way, obviously. But yeah, I just feel like it's tough having those two guys out. But I mean, anything can happen in this game that we call football. So I feel pretty confident that I could put up a good fight even without him. Just being because those guys are out. And my upset special of the week, Green Bay Packers is gonna win this one. They're gonna find a way to knock off Finkelstein, I'm going against myself, despite the fact that I don't want to. But I'm a realist, and realistically, that's I guess I can't have things easy. And unfortunately, despite the fact that I have the most points, my momentum's going to be stymied here by Greenbow. I think Greenbow's got a little bit of a he's going to have a little winning streak coming up here with a victory. I don't see too many decisions to be made as far as who he's going to start, who you're going to start. Obviously, it looks like Aaron Jones supposedly is healthy, and they want to cut
That's the
him
only one.
loose.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. But if they cut him loose, look out because being a Packer fan doesn't really change my mind at all. I think he's going to have a good game. Uh, he better have a good game. I mean, shit, it's been a disaster besides week one for him. So, for your
Brutal.
sake, you hope. And then obviously you have a couple guys, in the Cincinnati game, of course, against Buffalo. We'll be tuned into that. I mean, it's going to be going. I mean, most likely this comes down to Monday night again. You could have a lead going into Monday night, and
Yep.
it's up to Brees and Keenan to like maybe I got to come back from 20 points down, or maybe it's only 10. I mean, it depends. I mean, it's tough to say. I mean, you hope that Keenan Allen is peppered with targets, and it's obviously Josh Palmer is a little bit of a thorn in his side, so to speak, and Eckler. If Eckler is getting more involved now that he's healthy, I feel like obviously he had those boom weeks maybe because Eckler was out. Now maybe Keenan Allen falling back down to earth a little bit. He's not going to get 30 points. He's not. I don't think he's a 30-point per game scorer or 25 plus. I mean, he's right around 10 to 20 in that offense. He likes to spread it around a little bit. I feel like he likes to get everybody, random guys involved. So I feel like a little bit back down to earth a little bit. So and of course I think we're going to go down to the wire. I think, but and I know I'm forced to start Gus Edwards. But Gus Edwards did come off scoring 3 touchdowns, but it's hard to replicate that week to week, and nobody's going to put up the points that McCaffrey and Etienne are putting up. So, just unfortunately, those guys being out, I'm going to give the edge to you.
Yeah, I mean, hard to make up any of those. I mean, the number 1 and 2 running backs, I think, in fantasy right now. So, yeah, good week to catch you for sure. I need it. Schedule makers were kind, I guess, this week for Green Bowl, but yeah, I think you nailed it. I think it's going to be a back and forth battle, meaning that you got to tune into the ones and fours. Then my heavy hitter, obviously, Joe Burrow, just based off of quarterback and their potential of how many points they can score, and then with T Higgins also factored in, potentially James Cook. I will say that. Not set in stone that I want to play Aaron Jones. Bittersweet taste in my mouth from what he can do, and then obviously I've kind of gone on tangents um, about that. And then, I mean, again, no guy on my team is screaming 25 points or 30 points outside of my quarterback. Cooper Kupp maybe, but it's going to really rely on Stafford's health. I think he could light up the Packers for sure. But the reliability that you used to have from Cooper Kupp on a week to week basis, I just don't think is there this year. When Nakua being a factor and now Stafford's health. So yeah, I'm going to give the slight edge to myself. I hate picking myself. Didn't pick myself last week and won. So I do like the reverse jinx, I guess, more than I want to lead on. But just tough to pick against a guy that, like, the only decision maybe if you don't want to play Keenan Allen is you have Mike Evans. I think that's really the only decision making. Maybe Allen or maybe DJ Moore sits and you put Evans in. I mean, you kind of have a little bit of a decision there between those three, I'll say, and picking two of them. But yeah, I give the slight edge to myself. Just hoping that I can catch you on a bad week like you mentioned.
For sure.
All right. Well, we ran him down. I think it's I don't have Snyder's picks or his rankings, unfortunately. So it is what it is. We're gonna have to just go without him. So till he's back.
For sure, man. For sure.
I
feel like
did you write down your rankings? Yeah, I was gonna say, dude.
Yeah, I'll just give you mine. I mean, nothing's really changed too much.
Pretty straightforward.
I still have Dre at number one.
Yep.
Just being the top of the table right now. But like, of course, the guys that he has on his team, I think he's number one. I mean, I'll give myself number two. Everyone's been consistent. Like, even if I haven't played, guys on my bench have gone off too. RB's at three, and this is not. I'm not just just because of the standings. But
sure, I got you.
I just feel like for sure they're definitely three. I think that's a little bit different from obviously last week, because I think last week I had obviously Dre, me, and Ship Blizzard at three, but RB takes the edge now because he has those couple guys that could just go off. I mean, great tight end.
I think you had Tiburon at three. You might have Tiburon at three.
No, I think I wrote down Ryan was four. Unless I changed that when I was talking, but like I'm pretty sure I had Ryan.
Oh, maybe you did.
Four, but like, I mean, it's going to be a little bit of a change. Obviously, there. I mean, and obviously the winner of this matchup between the Blizzard and Tiburon is big for sure based on the rankings sake. But it's semantics really. Yeah, I'm going to obviously go Blizzard. Ship Blizzard 4, Ryan 5. The Bandits at 6. I'm going to go Riggs. Riggs is going to be 7 for me.
I think we have it. Agreed.
Yeah, for sure. And then just based on reputation, I'm going to put Logan next. I'm not saying just he finds ways to win and then get to the playoffs. So I'm going to just he's out the playoff picture right now. But just based on the fact that he always finds a way to get there, I'll put him there. But like Beaver Creek is right behind him after that. I feel like Beaver Creek. I like his team a lot, not because I just played him and he had a great point performance, but like, those if it's 4-point PPR league and you got receivers like that can do that, you're gonna put a scare in some teams for sure, like he did with me. So he's right there. He's on the cusp for sure. And then rounding out the bottom three, I'm gonna go with obviously Train next. You after him, and then Columbia White rounds it out at 12. It just nothing personal here. Just unfortunately, just 85 points is tough to string together. And it's why he doesn't have the least amount of points. I know it's you, but I feel like even if you get the victory against me, which I expect, guys haven't been performing, but I just feel like looking at the names on your team, like on paper, your team is not the worst team in the league. I don't think so. Paper from top to bottom. I mean, so you have to hope you get the victory there and pull yourself out of the cellar and try to make a late season playoff push. Crazier things have happened, but we'll see what
Yeah.
happens, right?
Well, this would be the craziest, but yeah, I don't. I mean, I think you nailed it. I had you. I'm sorry, I had Dre, you. I have Arby's at 3. Um, I have Ship Blizzard at 4 and Ryan at 5 as well. We both I think we both picked Ship Blizzard
Mhm.
in this week's matchup. I just think if he can get a win, get right a little bit here this week, um, Williams should be back, and I do think the Rams are still trying to be somewhat competitive. I mean, even with a backup this week, they probably could beat the Packers. Let's be real. So they're still gonna, I think, formulate the a competitive team on a week in, week out basis, I should say. So we'll see what happens there with him. But I do think he gets a slight edge over Tiburon for me. 6, I got the Bandits, but they're chomping right there. 4, 5, 6 for me was tough, but I think that's the order that I'm going to go with right now. Um, 7, I gave it to Riggs. I agree with you. I think his team's a little bit better on paper than the Bastards. I have to give I have to go based off of record and the fact that I think the
Mhm.
Beef unfortunately comes down to earth and loses this week.
Mhm.
Um yeah, I shouldn't say comebacks down to earth, but comes back down from those 4-4 teams. And then I think with the shake up a little bit, I have myself at 10.
All right.
Um I again just on paper, um I have Train 11 and White 12. The slight uptick for me is that I think competitively on paper, I've, like you said, probably um, the most names, even though we're not played on paper. So you would look at that team and say, oh, that's pretty good. I mean, just pre-draft, but um, Columbia White has some heavy hitters. The train just is going to be the interesting cog of Kirk Cousins going down, or the pulley of um, value, I should say, is like, do they slow play Jefferson now? And like
Yeah.
don't bring him back, which was a 4 to 6 week injury. I mean, we didn't highlight on that necessarily for future projections, but I guess when we do these power rankings, I always kind of like to look at now and then in the future, um, just a little bit. And I just think Train could be in trouble, just not getting that piece back. That'd be unfortunate, just because I think they were competitive enough where Kirk Cousins would have kept them in at least the playoff hunt. And Jefferson maybe comes back a little bit sooner. Now it's kind of maybe a tank season, limbo season for what they're going to do with Kirk Cousins and re-signing him. They still got to pay Jefferson, right? So it's interesting. It'll be interesting slow play. So, but yeah, I think this was a good recap. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Thanks for filling in again, Anth. This is 2 weeks in a row. We get you. It's a pleasure, um, as
Absolutely.
always. And we'll see where the pod goes. I mean, I will say the one mainstay is that I'm here. I'll hopefully be here every weekend and week out. Hopefully get my co-host back after the arrival of his second child. I think that's in the next week or two.
Awesome.
And then we'll see. So good things on the horizon for everyone.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Definitely glad to be here. Glad to have been able to give my expertise, so to speak, the last 2 weeks. Don't know if I'll be back again, but if I am, happy to take the call and give a great performance as always. So Snyder, we miss you, we love you, and good things for you obviously coming up. So yeah, can't wait to see what happens in week 9 as well. So good luck to everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, man. Peace out, boys.
See you, bro.